we've got a great guest today. Probably the best part of football that we all look forward to. But Erin Andrews, award-winning sports broadcaster, television host, probably soon to be award-winning podcast host, which you guys are crushing it. Well done with you and Carissa.
Thank you.
And then, how do I say it? Apparel icon? Because you guys are already breaking records.
Thanks. I appreciate, all of this. I thank you. I'll have you give an intro whenever I walk in the room any old day.
I'm currently unemployed outside of the Men's Journal thing, so I'll absolutely take that. And for the audience, she was about 10 minutes late, and then she comes in. She's like, I'm sort of a big deal. I've got all these ad reads. If that's what you think of veterans and our sacrifice to protect freedoms, I'm offended. I should just walk.
No.
Okay.
I'm so grateful for our veterans and anyone who has served our country. I can't tell you, it's not a joke, but we joke about it. My girlfriend who is on the sidelines with me during football games, there's always, we clap for the heroes. There's a hero of the game. A lot of times during timeouts, there's a surprise welcome home. Sometimes, oh my God, when I was at a Giants game, they gave a veteran who came home a dog, and I lost it. I cry for all of this stuff. It just touches my heart so much. I am forever grateful for, anyone who fights for our country, and I can't thank you guys for your sacrifice and your service. And yeah, it's always, we always end up crying on the sidelines, and my girlfriend Jilly and I are like, I love a serviceman. Like, I just can't even handle it.
I just totally was pulling your leg there, but have you ever seen like the guys that jump into the stadiums?
Yeah, all the time, because a lot of times, they come down right where I'm standing. And so they're pregame kind of assessing the situation, checking it out. And that's when I'm there like 4 to 5 hours before the game. And so a lot of them are really great. And I always walk by these men and women and thank them for their service. And they always ask for pictures and stuff. And so a lot of times they're coming down like right either before my hit or right after. And you're just like, woo, yeah, but it's really cool.
I probably would be the guy that hits the goalpost and then falls and breaks himself. So no, those guys are badass. I always enjoy watching them as well.
Absolutely.
So Erin, one, as we were preparing for this, I'm like, I can't name a female sports broadcaster before Erin, and I can't name one now. That may be my limited time that I spend watching ESPN and Fox Sports News, but you have absolutely set the bar, the gold standard for all females trying to get into the space. But for this podcast, everyone's like, oh, ask her, what message you would have for young ladies. I'm like, what does it matter, young ladies? She's achieved more success than 99.9% of men in the United States. Again, we already read your accolades, but a lot of people never understand who you were before you reached this level. Take me back. Where were you born? Because I saw Maine, of all places. But you grew up in Florida. Almost were a Texan for 18 months. Yeah. But you decided it wasn't for you.
Yeah, that was my dad. He was calling the shots because I was a young kid. But I was born in Lewiston, Maine. And my dad was working for the CBS affiliate in Maine. And we moved when I was 5. Don't remember much. Just remember it was cold. Remember certain Christmases and things like that. Had a brief stay, as you mentioned, in San Antonio, Texas. My dad was kind of trying to move up a bit in the media world. And then we moved to Tampa, Florida when I was in 2nd grade. I ended up going to high school, college. My first gig out of college was with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So stayed pretty close to home until really my second job out of school, which was then with Turner Broadcasting, where I worked for TBS, Turner, with the Atlanta Braves, the Atlanta Thrashers, kind of their college football coverage and all that. And that's when it kind of all just blew up and took off.
We were just in Tampa interviewing Dave Bautista.
Okay.
That was my first time in Tampa. Gorgeous city.
Hot as hell too, huh? Did your butt stick to the car? Like when you were driving, like the leather seats in the car when it's 100 degrees outside, you're like, my rear end is stuck to the seat.
So I actually feel bad because we were in my buddy's Audi, which is a, two-door low riding car, but there was this rainstorm that came out of nowhere. And so the streets were like flooded.
Yep.
He tried to go through one of the large puddles and just killed the engine. Yep. And we had to have somebody come pick us up. And I've got these, I had these ostrich Tecovas boots on, and there was no other way, just wet right up to my shins. So the boots made it. I'll forever hold that against them. But great city. Do you still have family there, or any? Yeah.
Oh yeah, my mom and dad still live there. My dad's recently retired. My mom's been retired for a bit. So they're still there holding it down. They were cheering for the Tampa Bay Lightning during the Stanley Cup Finals. And I'll be there a few times this year covering the Bucks. And so they're there telling me every day how hot it is.
I can only imagine. In Texas, we would consider that their little violin. We've got some heat out here.
Yeah, true.
Well.
I'll stop it. Yeah, you're right. You're not wrong at all.
So I know your father was in the space. What age did it hit you? Like, I'm doing what my dad does.
Yeah, so that I wanted to pursue this career. It wasn't weird for me to see my dad on the 6 o'clock or the 11 o'clock news. Actually, it was kind of our thing. After my dad finished his story on the 6 o'clock, we'd go meet him downtown and then go out to dinner because he'd have to stay there till the 11 and we'd have to go to bed. So very common to see my dad on TV and all that. So my dad is a great storyteller, and that was his way with being the firstborn, him telling me all about his teams and who he liked and who he didn't like and stories about them. And I just loved hearing how he would describe things because, again, that's what he does for a living and he's so good at it. So, I remember saying at a very young age, my dad thinks I was probably about like 6 or 7. I was watching the NBA on NBC and Hannah Storm was interviewing Charles Barkley, who is a good friend now and one of my favorite interviews and people to even like text with or talk with. But she was interviewing him and I just said, Dad, I want to do this when I grow up. And his joke and line back to me was, Erin, everybody wants to do this when they grow up. Interview Charles Barkley and yuck it up and things like that. But it pretty much was, besides being marine biologist, I was very into killer whales. I was very into, anything with dolphins or humpbacks, or I was very, very into marine animals. I knew that's pretty much all I wanted to do was be a sports broadcaster. Marine biologist probably would have been a little bit of different schooling that I wouldn't have been good at. But there was really no second option for me. Like kids were writing in my high school yearbooks, see you on ESPN. So that's kind of, I didn't have another plan after that.
Hey, focused and determined. I love it. When you went to the University of Florida, I know you had telecommunications as the major. Were you laser focused? You knew when you exited the University of Florida, which I'm sure was a lot of fun.
It was, but I got done in 4 years. And I mean, if you ask my parents, that's probably a shock with the way it started.
Is that like a shock for most Florida? Is it usually 5 years if you go to the University of Florida?
Listen, getting into Florida now is so hard. I don't even think I would get into that college now, but nothing to brag about. I was accepted in summer school because they said my grades or my SATs weren't that great. My mom thinks it was like a way that they would finance their school so they would have kids come early. Sure, Mom, candy coated. I appreciate it. I wasn't the smart kid. So I went to summer school. It was called Summer B, and you only take 2 classes. I ended up having to drop one of the classes because my grades were so bad. And my dad, he just said to me, I'm going to let you drop this class. I've paid for it and everything. Your grades are terrible, but you do it again. You're coming home and you're going to pay for your education after that. So that was pretty much it. You got to go to college early. I had to go to college early. Yes.
That doesn't seem like a punishment. That seems like you're getting out of the house sooner rather than later.
It was actually a lot harder than I thought it would be. Think about it. You're there in the summer. The sports haven't started yet. All my friends are still at home. They weren't leaving for school yet. So I was going back and forth, with the high school boyfriend every single weekend because they weren't leaving yet. And I was super bummed to be there. Probably wasn't studying as much as I should have been. And then my dad threatened me. And 4 years it took. She gone.
the power of sometimes where they
threatened.
say it's better to be feared rather than loved.
Yes, yes.
As a parent,
Yes.
it's a powerful motivator.
Mm-hmm.
I've always believed that. So once you leave, what was it like to break in, especially into the sports world, as a woman?
So obviously this is a common question people ask all the time. Yeah. For me, I was just so excited to get my first shot. And I was so excited because once I did, I started getting all these opportunities, all these roles, all these things presented to me. I didn't have time to really worry about it. I was really the only one in the room. I just wanted to do such a good job. A lot of the times I was not even, I don't want to say educated enough, but my first job out of college, I was the ringside reporter for the Tampa Bay Lightning, who I love and adore so much because they gave me my first chance, and the organization has been so wonderful to my family. I wasn't ready for that gig. I wasn't well educated for that. I didn't know anything about hockey. I was coming from the University of Florida, where SEC is life, baby. I mean, another thing, my dad, he didn't threaten me, but he was being honest, where I was trying to find a job at a school, and my dad was like, hey, maybe you read more than just the Florida Gators section of the sports page. Like, there's other teams you need to start learning about. And lo and behold, I got my first gig with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I didn't know crap about the NHL. Right. I wouldn't know a penalty kill from a face-off to offsides to all the things, too many men on the ice. I mean, I was reading, I've said this before, Cliff Notes, Hockey for Dummies, the night before my interview. So I had zero experience. They wanted a young kid. They wanted a, fresh face. They wanted a female. They wanted somebody who was homegrown. I was that. But the one thing that they didn't, I think they knew that what they were getting from me, I was going to work my ass off. And that's just something that stayed consistent throughout my entire career, almost to the point where it's neurotic of how much I work and I care. My publicist who's on this right now, she knows I turned down an opportunity to do Celebrity Wheel of Fortune, something I think I would kick ass in. But I got a preseason game that week, and I know I have interviews to do. And yes, I've done a ton of preseason games, and it's preseason. It's not week 18, but it means a lot to me. And I want to study my ass off, and I don't want to be, telling Pat Sajak, what, where, when, why, how of this, puzzle here when I got Kyler Murray on line one. So there you go.
So, this is a common theme. People probably naturally see you on TV and they just think, oh, she's a natural. It just came easy to her.
Well, yeah, I wish. Yeah. I wish. I mean, first of all, I have such a insecurity and chip on my shoulder because I never played in the league. I wouldn't know what it's like to lead a team down the field. I wouldn't know what it's like to make a comeback. I wouldn't know what it's like to lose 5 straight. But what I do know is that I've worked my rear end off. And because of that, guys like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, they trust me. And if they want to say, any of the swear words, or they want to call somebody out, they know I'm standing right there. They know I'm going to take care of them, but also report what I'm seeing and I'm hearing. And they also feel comfortable talking to me as well on the phone that week as we prepare for their game. So it doesn't come easy at all. I wish it did. If it did, I wouldn't be giving up opportunities to be on Celebrity Wheel of Fortune. I just feel like I really need to study, and I feel like every year I have to get better at what I'm doing because you always are worried about the next best thing coming and replacing you. But also, I know I can get better in certain areas, and I'm looking forward to that.
Is it a point of pride as well to show up to be your very best?
It is. And I'm also really, really competitive, but it is a point of pride. And I think about the people that sit there and watch, and it's not just the fans that I want to do a great job for. It's the organizations, it's the general managers, it's the players that are watching, it's the coaches. I have such chest pains and feelings of guilt when I mess up. And I have messed up before where I have misquoted someone, not because I thought I got the quote wrong. I just misspoke. I twisted 2 words, and it affected me the entire game. I ended up, sending a ton of apologies. I felt terrible. It means a lot to me to have the respect of the men and women that are a part of the NFL. And I don't want them to ever think for a minute I take it lightly.
So this is interesting. I got to ask you this one. Are you probably the only one that notices those small errors?
My dad does.
So he's still critiquing you. He's still coaching and mentoring when he's watching you.
I'm so fortunate because he is able to watch every single football game that I do.
Yeah.
And the one game he wasn't able to watch, I was so just preoccupied in my just thoughts because a huge hurricane was coming for Tampa. I think the governor at that time had even called it the ground zero of this hurricane. And I was in Green Bay. It was week 1. They were getting ready to play the Seahawks. And, my mom was getting ready to go to a shelter. She was crying. She had just packed up our house and all our things and threw things in the dishwasher, wrapped up in bubble wrap. And my dad had to go cover the story. And we were a wreck. I mean, there's 4 of us in our family and we were just a wreck. And here I am. I have a 345 kick. And my dad's a Green Bay Packers fan. It's week 1. During the national anthem, after the national anthem, Aaron Rodgers, he even knew my dad covers, he knows my family, and he walked over and just said, "How's your dad?" And my eyes just filled with tears. And I was like, I don't know. And Joe Buck comes on the air and says, we're thinking about all those people in Tampa Bay, including Aaron's parents. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So that was like the first game ever my dad didn't get to watch because he was covering this hurricane. And then I think in the 4th quarter, he chimed in because I was like, Dad, don't use your cell phone battery, please, because if you get stuck in a situation, I don't want your phone to die. And he was like, I'm watching, go Pack, go. So it was great.
That's awesome. So I'm assuming, these relationships within the NFL and your fellow commentators and broadcasters, it's almost like a tribe. It's a family.
Yeah, it's a family. And it even is with players as well. I mean, and coaches and people you've been around. I mean, you are with these guys, the players and the coaches and the organizations in their highest of highs and in their lowest of lows. And the fact that they're able to be candid with you and let you in means a lot to me as well. The people that I work with at Fox are exactly that. They're your tribe. I mean, I see them more than I see my husband or my family. I spend Christmas with them. I spend Thanksgiving with them. I mean, they've heard my stories of my cancer battle, my infertility struggles. They know a lot. I mean, you go out for Friday night dinners and you throw back a couple glasses of wine and you're telling them all the things. I get to hear about, raising their kids and their kids going away to college. People bring their wives on the road. You become close with them. You spend, Super Bowls together. So yeah, that's your group.
This is starting to sound a lot like the military, except we don't bring our wives on the road with us.
You guys are actually like fighting for our country. We are providing entertainment. So believe me, I have a lot of perspective when it comes to what you guys do.
I appreciate that. We also had, even over there, a hell of a lot of fun. And great stories.
I will say, though, that is pretty cool. Whenever you talk to anyone involved in the military, they, I try to just show my, compassion and how grateful I am for what you guys do and your sacrifice and so much. But it is really cool for them to hear like, hey, don't talk down about what you do because we needed that entertainment, at times too. And you see that as well, like with the pandemic and people just turning on sports and just having a break from reality, right?
You literally just took the words from my mouth.
Yeah.
We looked forward to the small things, and it gives you perspectives of when the NFL comes on or college football, it was like we could tune out what was going on around us and focus on you guys. And for that, we were ever grateful. I do remember I had a troop chief who was a fanatical San Francisco 49ers fan, and we had a mission coming up, and he's like, Mikey, don't make us go on this mission because it was playoffs. I'm like, oh man, don't do this to me. Things ended up falling through with the target package, so we got to stay back. But I never let that one go.
Aww.
How about I'm going to ask this because coming out of the military is a wild transition. It just sucks. There's no way to sugarcoat it. But a lot of your broadcasters are prior athletes who have zero training. Well, I wouldn't say zero. I'm sure they get media training for their interviews. But I'm sure you've seen a lot of them struggle. Do you act as a coach and mentor to some of the players as they retire and get picked up by the networks?
I have been fortunate with the men that I've worked with. They've been doing this for a long time. But yeah, there's guys that I'm in touch with a lot that are recently retired or even thinking about this down the road. I think somebody like a Michael Strahan has made this as something guys now, first of all, look at and they think, man, I better start planning for my future, which is what I know a lot of these, future after sports, what they try to drill into these guys' heads. But I've had great talks with a lot of current players that are thinking about it. And you think that they know a lot about what you do because you're like, hey, it's like every week, but they're not watching, they're playing. So we were talking to one big time player about, potentially doing a studio role, which is what you see Michael, Terry, Howie,
Yes.
Jimmy do on our show. And he was like, well, I just want to do it for a big, big audience. So that's the game. And we said, no. That's studio. Like you want to do, if you want your words to, what you're saying out there, that's studio because you're halftime for every big game. It's not just the game we're doing, it's all the games. And he goes, you guys don't do halftimes for all the different games. And my buddy and I were there. We go, yeah, they do. Like you only know it because we do it for yours, but then we're doing it in Dallas. We're doing it in New York. But my husband is a retired NHL player and he's on television as well. And the only criticism or advice I give him is smile more because he has a gorgeous smile and it lights up a room, which is kind of funny. My dad is always telling me to smile a little bit, but my husband got it really, really easily, and he started doing in-game hits during the playoffs. He would do the studio pregame intermission reports and post, but then for playoffs this year, they started using him in-game, which is what I do. And I was like, shit, that was so good. Like, you nailed that. So he picked it up really, really quickly.
But you don't give him like, hey, that was really good, but you could fix this one little thing or tweak this or...
No, I mean, again, I tell him to smile. I tell him he's in a hard spot because he's reporting now on guys that he played with. And you want to be careful. And a lot of athletes after they retire have to deal with that. People want to hear your honest assessment. That was a shitty throw or that was a terrible pick. You want to hear guys say that, but also guys don't a lot of times want to say those things. So I always try to tell them, just be honest about the guys, but you don't have to totally put them down. If you think the defense played poorly, then say it, but offer perspective of how they could turn it around and what they're thinking about now after such a crappy defensive performance. I don't know.
So as we're talking, I'm making this assumption that trust is the capital a broadcaster has with the players. And is it once you destroy that trust, you're done with certain players? They won't talk to you. They won't give you the time of day.
I think so. It is for me. And I've talked to, two guys that I admire a lot, and Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, and to kind of the reporters that...
Never heard of them.
Yeah, who? What? Kind of the reporters that they talk to a lot on a regular basis. I know Melissa Stark is somebody that Coach Belichick will sit down and do these interviews with, and they always come across so well. And Tom Brady and Jim Gray have a really, really fantastic relationship. And I've asked both of them, what is it about Melissa? What is it about Jim Gray that you like? Because I want to learn to emulate that and be looked upon as they, look at those two. And they both said that right away. I just trust them. I trust them. They're not going to burn me. And it's a huge thing. I could never imagine having the role that an Adam Schefter, or Jay Glazer has at Fox, who I think is the best at what he does. They are there to report the news, whether it hurts your feelings or not, or whether he's going to tell you you're done at the end of the year. The team's not going to rehire you. They're going to fire you. So I could never imagine having that role. I do not want that role. I love what I have. But yes, trust is una mas, like it is the one thing. Yep.
I love the fact that Erin Andrews is looking at other broadcasters and pulling the things they do well. That's curiosity right there that probably keeps you sharp and always looking for the best practices. But the fact that somebody at your level is always looking at other broadcasters to see what they do well, I've got to say, Erin, that is admirable. And amongst all the high performers, and I've worked with some high performers in the military, the top of what they do, curiosity was an attribute where those guys wouldn't, it was, and the thing, humility as well, to go up to somebody and say, hey, you do that well. How are you doing that? Or how can I do it better? That's amazing.
Well,
So,
I feel like, look, even Tom Brady, and maybe he's not, and I don't even know, and maybe Aaron's not, but I'm thinking just every single year they have to kind of try to adjust how defenses are preparing for them. I mean, I even talked to Aaron Donald last year before the NFC Championship, and I just said, look, you're covered, by 3 to 4 guys usually every single game. How in the heck do you even have success? And he was just talking about all the film that he watches and the preparation and how he has to try certain things to deal with all the protection and guys all over him. And I'm obviously not dealing with defenses, but I guess the defense is a father time. And also for me, just, I don't want to get too complacent. Oh, here's one. Ready? I'm obsessed with the Derek Jeter docuseries. I can't talk about it enough. It's like, it's something, if I am doing a crappy job cleaning my kitchen, I'm like, what would Derek do? Competition eliminates complacency. Stop it. Like, and other broadcasters are my competition. And we are like a brotherhood, sisterhood. But if so-and-so, if a top athlete is like, well, I want to talk to her because she's better than talking to Erin. That's competition. So what is she doing? What are they doing to get the Tom Bradys to say, I want to do my sit down with you? I got to find out. I love that, Derek Jeter.
That is an amazing quote, and I'm going to steal that and trademark it. And I'm sure Derek Jeter will come after me, but it's okay. I have no money.
No, he won't. He gets
come
it.
After, that is powerful, and it's almost iron sharpens iron. So as one man sharpens another. I mean,
yeah.
When you are operating at the level you're operating, I'm sure you're sharpening each other. But so, is there a competition though? Can you feel that competition amongst broadcasters and the younger generation coming up, trying to sort of chip away at your heels?
Sure. But I like it. I get off on that. I really do. I love it. I want to see what other people are up to. I want to see who they're getting as a sit down interview. I want to see, what stories so-and-so is telling them and how they attack even like stupid things, like, and it's not stupid, but even injury updates, right? Like, we're on the field and we get upper body will be evaluated at the half. We'll let you know after that. You know how easy for me it is to say, well, Kevin, so-and-so is being evaluated for an upper body injury. We'll have more details at the half. Like, what in the hell did I just tell you? Okay, let's just say what I should do is let me observe what happened, what I saw, what he said to the trainer, or I'm not really allowed to do that, so I shouldn't do that. What his vibe, what his mood was, that they are going to update me after the half. This is who is coming in for him. He hasn't played in X amount of games, or he struggled, or he's done well. And that's just things I learned from, like, when Michelle Tafoya was working Sundays, or Melissa Stark, or just how other sideline reporters kind of handle an easy injury report. Do they add it? Are they easily getting in out of it? Like stuff like that. I get off on that.
How much of your prep is, you're just reading up on the players, their backgrounds, what's going on in their lives. Is that a big part of broadcasting, as well as knowing the players sometimes better than they know themselves?
It is for my job. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I say that all the time, that I do feel like down on the field, I am a private eye. Like, I feel like I'm a spy. I feel like I am like part of the CIA, because, a lot of times the trainers, the coaches, the quarterbacks, they're pissed about a situation. Somebody's hurt. They're figuring out there's an equipment malfunction. And I have to sit there, and it's good shit. It's stuff that the booth doesn't have, and it adds to the game. There was a situation when I was younger and I was covering college, and it was a big West Virginia game, and I'll never forget it. I think I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about how to handle the sidelines that game. One of the star running backs of West Virginia, they were playing a huge matchup on Thursday Night Football, and they needed to win the game, and they were running the ball, and they needed him to score. And all of a sudden he's off the field, and he had a helmet malfunction, and I'm like, holy shit. And I'm like, Fowler, his helmet's, messed up, They're still working on it while the play's happening. And like, people didn't know if he was hurt, what was happening. And, I just remember after the game, that sounds so stupid, but I saw it right away, and I like could add as soon as they're like, why are you taking him out of the game? What's going on? His helmet's messed up. So then we got shots of the equipment guy. I'm like, get the equipment guy. He's running here. They're doing this. I get off on that. Like I've got goosebumps right now. And I'm just like, that was something that was like 15, 20 years ago. But I remember Chris Fowler had said to me after the game, he was like, that is where you are at your most like valuable. Like we need you so badly for stuff, because there wasn't even a break. I saw it happen right away. I saw him throw it. I'm like, his equipment, blah, blah, blah. And you could give the viewer that. I could give the guys in the booth right away, because then the backup running back came in and it's like, holy crap, are they not going to score? You see how I love this kind of stuff? Like, it's just fun for me.
So do you adrenaline dump after the game? Because it sounds like you're just...
I mean, it's so bad how many coffees I pump before the game. But like after, we were talking about this the other day with somebody. It's like we all are in the car coming home from the stadium. We're either going to the airport or we're going to the hotel. And we're just like, sound like that, our dog. None of us talk because we're so tired. We're so exhausted. And a lot of times these car service people will turn the radio on. We're like, can you turn that off? Please turn that off. Like, I don't want to hear. Because also too, at that moment, I've got somebody in my ear as well. I hear program. I hear what you hear for the game. And then I have also my producer in my ear as well. And so, and then I'm trying to listen to what Tom Brady's saying to his offensive line, or to Mike Evans or things like that, So I literally have 15 voices in my head. So I'm exhausted.
So, Erin, everyone would say you're a very personable person, you're very charismatic. At the end of those games, I know we talked about the adrenaline dump. Do you just need alone time? Do you need decompression time?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about being in the car together as a group and with your team. We're all so quiet, like I said, but we all really end up going to the bar at the end, or we, sit in the lobby together if the bar is not available, and we all just kind of talk, and we all talk about, as a team, like you said, your tribe, what everybody did right. There's always something. None of us think we had a perfect performance. What we need to fix, what we need to do better. Crap, this graphic went on. The ref held it for too long. Dang, I messed up that injury report. So we all kind of download together as a team, which when you have a close group like we do, it's pretty cool because we're also there to lift each other up and be like, dude, come on, that wasn't your fault. Like, people at home get what you're saying. So that's how you end up being really, really tight with our group.
You know what we call that in the military, right? And we do that after every training. We call it the after action review.
Oh.
And so after a combat mission or training, we come back and everyone talks about their performance, both the good and the bad. Mm-hmm. And you can be very vulnerable. No one's going to be like, yeah, you really messed that up. Be like, hey, it's okay. What did you learn from it? And what can we learn from the mistake you made so that we don't repeat that same mistake? That's right. It's one of the greatest individual and organizational development tools that any organization has. And what we found is the best high performers and high performing teams all do that same process. That is so encouraging to hear. Yeah. That's awesome. So let's get into the lighter side before we get deep, as we like to say. So the podcast, you and Carissa, I mean, I've listened to a few episodes. You guys get vulnerable. It's almost like no holds barred. There's no subject off limits. Like, where did that come about? Did you two come together, or did somebody approach you guys to start that podcast?
Yeah, we've been asked about it a couple of times, and people just saying, you both are pretty funny. You both are good friends. You both have gone through a lot in your life. And people only really hear from me 15 seconds during the game. And that's either about a groin injury or about a defense that needs to make an adjustment, So Carissa was always kind of about the fact that she's just like, listen, you're funnier than a lot of people know or think. And it was during the pandemic, and she just said, let's try this. And I agreed. And we wanted to call the podcast, well, everybody else has one, why don't we? But I mean, that didn't fly. So yeah, we've stuck with it, and it's been a lot of fun. I've like I mentioned with you, I've been pretty open about infertility struggles, and people reaching out and talking about that has been amazing. And Carissa has dealt with going through divorce and putting herself back out there, and it's just like, hey, guess what? We're just like everybody else. We have nose hairs and going to the bathroom issues, and we have to travel for a living and talk to really good looking athletes, but this is what's really going on behind the scenes. I had a huge booger in my nose during that interview. And so that's just where people kind of see the unglamorous side of like what they think we're all about, you know? It's been fun.
Yeah, we need to see more of that, though.
Yeah.
And that's awesome that you guys have the sort of moral courage to put yourselves out there and be vulnerable.
Well, thank you.
With that, I've always got to wonder, do you pay attention to what I call the keyboard crusaders? The ones that are so, quick to throw comments on other people's lives.
Yeah.
Because they can do it anonymously behind a keyboard, sitting in their home.
In their mom's basement.
Do you pay, given what you do you pay attention to that, or have you learned to just totally tune that out?
Look, I've gone through some really public things in my life, from being stalked to being in a major trial to, just moving from college to the NFL. And early in my career, I get it. My nose is big. I get it. My voice isn't the smoothest out there. And, everybody has a critique. Everybody has something to say. And there's some days it can really get you. And then there's some days you like crack up about it and you do the Jimmy Fallon mean tweets, right? I've talked to so many athletes, and I've listened to what they've, one athlete told me one time that you could have a stadium, with 100,000 people cheering for you. And then you get off that field and you have one mean tweet and it ruins your whole day. And it's like, what the heck, like, what does this person know? So candidly, there are some times after a couple glasses of wine, I see some of these tweets and I'm like, you know what I want to say? And then I wake up the next morning, I'm like, oh my God, I hope I didn't do it. And I didn't. I showed restraint. But you try to take it with a grain of salt. I pretty much on game days won't look at what people have to say, because that could ruin my day when, you try to stand up there in front of how many millions of people and give this report and all that. So everybody's a critic, but if they all could do it, they would. So I try to remember that.
Erin, I do want to bring up one thing because, one I know is a very tough, possibly dark time in your life is, you're a cancer survivor. When that news came forward, when the doc came to you with, what did that feel like?
Yeah, I think, what's unfortunate for me now is I didn't really realize the repercussions it would have in my life. It has, unfortunately, had a lot to do with us having a baby. And I think at that time, very much, I'm obviously a very driven person. I found out week 3 of the season we had a Super Bowl. I was so worried about missing a game. I was like, I'm not missing a game. And my doctor at the time was like, well, that's not what I'm talking about. She's like, you have to get surgery. And I was like, okay, but I'm not missing the Super Bowl. And then when they started talking about like how major the surgery was going to be and so forth, I still was so worried about being a part of football that year. Not because I didn't want to look weak I just didn't. I work with a lot of men too. And the cancer that I had wasn't a cancer they could get. It was something that had to do with the female body and reproductive system and so forth. But I think the biggest thing was I just didn't want to miss time. And then, the week that I was getting the cancer taken out was the week that Brett Favre, who I was raised to cheer for, was getting his name in the Circle of Honor, the Ring of Honor at Lambeau. And it was against a young group led by Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, who were rookies. And I was like, there's no way in hell I'm missing this game. I don't give a shit if I'm 48 hours off the table. I'm not missing this game. So my dad and my boyfriend, who's my husband now at the time, ended up coming to Lambeau because they were like, okay, they just didn't trust me, which that's fine, but I wasn't missing the game. And then the unfortunate part about the whole thing is that we did learn before that game that the cancer had spread. And so I was going to have to get a second surgery. And if that one didn't work out, then we were going to have to probably look into chemo and radiation and a hysterectomy and so forth. But thankfully we didn't. And I did have a second surgery. And my oncologist who performed that one was amazing. And I basically looked at him when I was all milked up and being rolled in. And I said, okay, this is 4th and whatever. And you're Tom Brady and you have to kick this thing's ass. And he was like, I love you. I have no idea what that means. And I'll do my best. So, but yeah, it sucked. But I just go into this mode where work is everything. And, I didn't really understand, I think, how big the situation is. Now I do, because I'm seeing the consequences of it all. But it was tough, but thankfully we got through it.
Is it work, or is it you're just God honest passion?
I love that question. It's my passion. Yeah, I love it so much.
I have no doubt your family was pleading with you just to take a knee, but I think you are living proof that sports broadcasters do play hurt as well, and that's awesome.
Well, that's nice of you to say.
In your mind, was there ever a doubt that you weren't going to beat this thing?
No, I've been through so much already in my life that I was like, I've got this. It'll be okay. And, like you said, I had an amazing support group. I had, my family, my husband. I didn't really tell a lot of my friends, but the ones that knew were the ones that I knew that were the ones that could help me through it. So, I wouldn't have been able to do that without them.
That's amazing. So, I want to jump in before we get into the final round of questions, but Where is just crushing it. And
it's so funny you should ask. This is a new crop top we're going to be, we have for all 32 teams in the NFL, but I am not biased, so I just wear the NFL one. But yeah, we've really evolved. We're so pumped about it.
Well, the funny thing too is when you look back, you're like, why hasn't anyone done this before?
Especially
with the female demographic. Because, hey, it's not to say that women don't look sexy in a boxy jersey, but why wouldn't they have a specific cut to them? And did I see you guys are forecasting an 85% increase in sales in 2022?
You're damn straight we are. Yeah, we're
even in a down economy, you guys are crushing it.
Think about that too. And that's another thing, thank goodness for people and finding relief in sports, because year 2 of Where was in the middle was the first year of the pandemic. So it was like, oh my God, are we going to even have games? Are people even going to buy our stuff? And I think it was just a nice relief for them to be a part of that, wear their team's colors and look fashionable anywhere and everywhere,
Yep, my wife is loving it. So thank you. From the Sorelli family, thank you. I've just got to ask, when is NASCAR coming into play?
Oh, I don't know. I could definitely ask, what team does your wife root for?
Oh, well, she basically roots for anything. I got to tell you a quick story. The first time I took her on a date, I flew her out to Colorado because I went to the University of Colorado Boulder for a short period of time before I enlisted in the Marine Corps. And we are wasted. And so I want to get her in some University of Colorado stuff. And we're at the store in the bottom of the stadium, which I know you've probably been to that stadium.
Yeah.
And they didn't have changing rooms. And so, she's like, hey, turn around, like, watch out for me. Just whips her shirt off, puts the other shirt on. Of course, I turn around to sneak a peek.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm basically like, yeah, I'm marrying this woman. But so, Boulder, and of course, we're Texas, UT. She's a Raider, unfortunately.
Oh, no, we have so much great stuff. I'll get your information and send her a goodie bag. We have our stuff right now is so fantastic, and we do carry UT.
Where do you predict that company is going to go? You're just going to continue to rake in teams, different lines, or do you have a grander vision for it right now?
Yeah, we have a big announcement coming actually in a couple weeks of another league that we are so excited to be a part of. And I'm pumped for that. But I was reminded, I just got a hard pass from somebody with another business venture, and I was super sad for a couple minutes because I remembered a Derek Jeter quote. He said in his docuseries, he's a real told you so guy. And he remembers when people doubted him, where they were, what they said, what they were wearing. And, when we were given a hard pass the other day on something we were selling, my manager had just said, remember how many people had said no to Wear. So I feel bad for them that they did. So where do I see it going? I knew there was a need for this. I knew there was an area I knew there was a white space. I knew women wanted it. I also have such a different kind of, not perspective, but vantage point with it all. I'm right there with the fans. I can touch them. I can feel them. I can see them. I can talk to them. So they know that I'm selling them this stuff, and they know they are always asking me what I'm wearing. And it's just different from a big time kind of manufacturer or label that isn't at the game. I'm at the game. So I can talk to them. I can see what their needs are. I can address those and everything. So where would I like to see this go? I would like to see it go as high up as it can. Like Kylie Jenner style. I don't know, the pink jet, whatever.
Hey, Kylie Jenner has nothing on you unless we get her on the podcast and I'm going to say the opposite thing. So do you ever step back to maybe realize, like, well, I'm not diminishing it when I say this. I'm a sports broadcaster. I never played in the league, but I've had sometimes more of an impact on sports than some of the players did. Have you ever stepped back and realized that?
No, because I don't really know if that's true. I don't know how much of an impact I've had. Well, that's so nice of you to say. But I mean, I do think for younger girls that want to pursue this as a passion or a reality or a dream or whatever. But I don't know. I work with some pretty damn talented beasts out there that just do incredible things with their bodies day in, day out to try to win. And I am not lacing up like they are. So.
Well,
although some of my boots have great laces, you know.
Oh, they do.
No, I'm kidding.
They do, and the gear is getting better with each year. You ever look back at like the 80s, 90s, and just how bad the uniforms were? They were blocky. Now they're
I love it.
Now they're very form fitting.
I love when the guys were like wearing the half shirts and all. That was great.
I did love that look.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, Erin, we end this with a series of questions, and they can be a little deep. But we do like to show vulnerability. I think one of the most human traits, people want to say masculinity is vulnerability, is you have to have the ability to be vulnerable in order to garner trust. And you do that well with your counterparts. So what is the biggest failure of your life and what did you learn from it?
Wow.
Yeah, these are the stump the chump questions. That's why we don't prepare you. And we can pass and go on to the next one if you want. Did I just stump Erin Andrews?
Well, because I was going to right away say one thing, but I'm like, no, I haven't failed in that. Because I'm still going to succeed in it.
Love the attitude.
I would say my biggest failure, but I know I can get better at it. And I know I freaking will if I get the opportunity again. I really sucked at being a studio host. And I got 2 opportunities in my career to do it with TBS and with Fox when I first signed on. Listen, being on the sidelines is my love. It's my passion. I like to be right there with the guys. It is hard on your life. It is hard on your body. It's being in the studio is a lot cozier and comfier than January in Green Bay. I feel like when I got this second opportunity with Fox, I let my fear creep in early in my career that I had when I didn't do a great job with TBS. So I think that's right now professionally one of my biggest failures, but I am certain that when I do get the opportunity again, I'll kick ass at it.
I have no doubt you will. Biggest regret of your life? And don't say no regrets. That is the biggest bullshit answer that anyone can say. We all have regrets. And I know our failures determine or help define who we are, but biggest regret.
I'm
loving this.
Yeah, I think it has to do with family. I mean, we're a really, really tight family, but there's just things I'm sad I've had to miss out on because of my job. And I don't get to have a Christmas anymore. And how many do you get to have those with your family? But the good news about mine is we celebrate on the 26th and 27th. But nice. Yeah, I am a person that my job has taken me away quite a bit.
Funny enough, that is the biggest regret of my life. And I'm not saying that because you're on here. It's being deployed all those times. And hell, I was not there for my kids growing up. Still haunts me to this day.
Yeah.
Especially with folks as they get older in their 70s, is making it out to the good
that's
old
where
Bay
my
Area
emotion.
to see
Yep.
them. Yeah. So what are those 1 to 3 tenets that you live your life by, those non-negotiables that have led to much of your success, discipline, hard work, those type of tenets that the listeners can take and maybe implement into their lives?
Give me an example.
Like hard work, discipline, always be kind. What are the rules for Erin Andrews?
Be humble. Be grateful. Always treat everyone in the room like they are the most important person. There's a lot of athletes I've been around that does that do that. Derek Jeter is one of them. Tom Brady does that. I think that's what separates guys like that. And I really, really appreciate it. Let's see what else. I swear by how much I prepare and study. And I also think too, and this may be the biggest one, is that, and a college professor said this to me, you have to love it, because if you don't, it's just not going to work out. I mean, I live out of a suitcase. I've mentioned missing Christmas. I mentioned missing Thanksgiving. I missed, my husband's return to Los Angeles, because I was going to cover the NFC Championship. I missed his Stanley Cup party, one of them, because I had to go to a Fox seminar. But you have to love your job, because if you don't, it's just going to, there's too many other things. It's just going to come out and just show that you don't. And there's so many sacrifices. Like we talked about our regrets of missing things. I regret that I miss it, or I have missed stuff, but I love it, what I do so much, that it kind of helps balance it out a tad, if that makes sense. Probably not.
It does. Especially given the current environment, so many people are unhappy with their current jobs.
Yeah.
And one, I will tell you, I will do whatever it takes to put food on the table for my family.
Yeah.
If it's pushing a broom, you know what? I'm going to be the very best at pushing a broom, to the point where people are like, send Mike, he'll get the job done. I love that. And you said something about be prepared. We've all heard the phrase, fortune favors the bold. I think that's bullshit. Fortune favors the prepared.
I agree.
And that's what I've always seen. The battle is won before you even fight, much like those games in the NFL. I'm sure it's won before they even step on the in the field on certain ways. Last one, when the time comes and you're looking back on your life, how will Erin Andrews know that she lived a life of impact and purpose? How are you going to judge your life? And I know that's a tough one.
I think I've learned a lot about this on this vacation. Well, not vacation, but we're out here for like a month, but we're around a lot of families. And we're trying to learn how to raise kids before we have them. And we're seeing the families that were really, that do it the right way. And I think a way we'd like to emulate. And I think it's just seeing what we're able to just instill and have, and what our kids become. That's, I think, what will do it for me. I mean, if you met my golden retriever, you'd already know he's perfect. So he's walked in and out a few times.
Yeah, I was going to say, I just watched him walk down the stairs.
Stairs with my husband, yeah.
Well, Erin, that's probably one of the most common answers we get.
I bet.
Is people say they look back at their family or their kids, but that's where the impact happens. So, well, Erin, I know you're on vacation, so I don't want to take up any more of your time. I cannot thank you enough for joining, and for all the listeners, for just the gold you've been spitting out, these nuggets that people can implement into their lives. You are, and I'll say it, an icon. Again, we love watching you on the sidelines. Again, from the military perspective, thank you for the entertainment you gave us while we were over there. If there's anything Men's Journal can do for you or myself, please don't hesitate to ask. So go have fun, and hopefully we will see you again.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. And this has been the Men's Journal Everyday Warrior. We'll see you next time. Thank you.